Okay, we're going to continue our talk about the leukemias and lymphomas, and we were just talking about acute myeloid and lymphoid leukemias, and now we're going to talk about acute lymphoblastic leukemia slash lymphomas. So we are looking at a slide here. You cannot see, we're looking at flow cytometry, and we're noticing the different markers here. So I'm looking at a slide, I'm looking at this flow cytometry and noticing that we can see the y-axis showing CD22 and the x-axis showing intracellular TDT, and TDT is terminal deoxynucleotide transferase. And we're noticing here that most of the accumulation of the red blood cells is on the side of the, it's kind of up on the top right hand corner. And looking at the other graph, we're looking on the x-axis at the CD19 and on the on the x-axis is CD10 and the y-axis is CD19. We're looking at the accumulation, which is sort of in the first and third quadrants. So what we should note here is that the lymphoblasts represented by the dead dots express terminal TDT and the cell marker CD22. And for the other graph, the second graph, the same cells are positive for two other markers, CD10 and CD19, and which are commonly expressed on the pre-B lymphoblasts. So then we can, if we were looking at this, we were trying to figure out what type of acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or what it was. We couldn't say here, because of what we've noticed, the cell markers, that this is B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, although you can't see the cells here, sorry about that. You cannot see the graphs, but it's important to remember these markers, especially noticing in the case of B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the TDT and the main CD markers. So if you were looking at a slide of the adult type of adult leukemia, in this case acute myeloid leukemia without a maturation subtype, what would you be looking at? You'd be able to see myeloblasts that have delicate nuclear chromatin, prominent nuclei, and fine azurophilic granules in the cytoplasm. So if you get that on the test, you'll be able to recognize it. So let's talk now about acute myeloid leukemia without the maturation subtype. We were talking about acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Now we're going to talk about acute myeloid leukemia without the maturation subtype. So I'm looking at two graphs, representations for the red blood cells, and we're looking at B. B side shows on the y-axis CD34, on the x-axis CD64, and the C graph shows on the y-axis CD33 and on the x-axis CD15. So what I should be noticing here is that this is acute myeloid leukemia without maturation, and that the myeloblasts have a delicate nuclear chromatin, prominent nuclei, and fine azurophilic granules in the cytoplasm. But in B, in the flow cytometric analysis shown, the myeloblasts, represented by the red dots, express CD34, a marker of multipotent stem cells, but do not express CD64, a marker of mature myeloid cells. So therefore the blasts are myeloid cells showing limited maturation. In C it says that you can see myeloid blasts expressing CD33, a marker of immature myeloid cells, and a subs that express CD15, a marker of more mature myeloid cells. Anyway, get the hang of it here in the way that we are. By noticing the markers, you can decide whether it is acute myeloid leukemia or whether we're looking at acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And you can tell how mature the cells are by noticing the markers. So what do we know about lymphoid neoplasms? So what are they derived from? They are derived from the clonal expansion and proliferation of B and T lymphocytes, obviously because they're lymphoid. And what do they encompass? They encompass a heterogeneous group of lymphomas and leukemias, including B cell, T cell, natural uh, killer cells disorders. And we looked at a video on that the other day. It was very, very detailed. If you just scan YouTube, I do have another website, so if you can look on that. Actually, I think I'll transfer those videos over to this one because it's difficult to find them. In any case, you can find on YouTube. Khan Academy Medicine makes amazing videos about these two. So from the reading, we should understand the differences between lymphocytic leukemias and lymphomas, although it is really complicated. But we should know that all leukemias first of all, know that all leukemias of lymphocytes have lymphoma counterparts, and that the primary lymphomas can have leukemic phases, including multiple myelomas. We looked at multiple myelomas in the previous video. What was the name of that person? Crabby or Crab, and what that involves in the body. But know that any myeloid leukemia can infiltrate a lymph node or any site. But this doesn't make it a lymphoma. Just because a leukemia has infiltrated a lymph node doesn't make it a lymphoma. It just means that it has infiltrated it, and it is a myeloid infiltrate into a lymph node. The major point here is that all lymphomas are malignant proliferations of lymphocytes, and all leukemias involve bone marrow changes. So what we take from this is that the lymphomas are always involving leukocytes, but the leukocytes, you cannot say that the leukocytes are involved in lymphomas because that is a totally different thing. So to summarize the lymphomas, how could we classify them? I know we've looked at detailed videos before, talked about them in detail, readings, etc. But just generally, we could say that they're either nodal or extranodal, T or B cell, so many types, small or large cells, follicular or diffuse, and Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. So which one is more common, the Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's? Well, the non-Hodgkin's are more common, but the Hodgkin's is more curable. I just found something interesting here. It says that the most common type of low-grade non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is follicular lymphoma, and the most common type of high-grade lymphoma is diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. So this is good to know. I'm not absolutely sure. Well, it says Hodgkin's disease is most common in two different age groups, young adults 15 and 35 and old adults over age 50. So I'm not sure about which one is more common. Oh, here we go. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is much more common than Hodgkin's disease in the United States, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is the sixth most common cancer. And right at the top it says lymphoma is the most common blood cancer. Two main forms of lymphoma are Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So